You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm my friendship. Oh,
you know what time it is. Roll with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Buckeyes by a billion. We in the building with over 100,000. We represent from the uttermost to the public housing. And if we don't play, our wide receivers got your secondary shook, so they cook them like Bobby Flay. Hey, stay out of my way and trust me, cause I know it's OH. Somebody please give this brother an IO. Come on.
What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk about college football with real fans. I'm Devin. That's Mello. That's Funky. Welcome, chat. We appreciate you guys coming in, man. Mello, Funky, how was your guys' day today?
Man, I'm good. I'm happy, blessed that we're here to share some good information with Buckeye Nation. How you doing, Funky?
It's good. Woke up a national champion, so that's never a bad day. And it's nice and bright and sunny outside, and I'm just counting down the days till summer. So I'm excited. And I think we're officially 100 days away from college football. So it's coming up just like that. I've only really cared about college football. Watching the Cavs made me realize that the only thing that matters really is Ohio State football. So 100 more days until some football, then we're 16 weekends till Ohio State football. So I cannot wait. It's going to be great.
Yeah, man, that gets me excited for sure. You got to give a shout out, man. A new intro video. Let us know what you guys think, chat. B. Moses made that for us, dude. I think it's absolutely fire. So excited about that. This was the first time. Played it yesterday on Buckeye Boys, but didn't quite have it right. We could still see us in the background. So it's officially out there, man. Chat, you guys know what to do, man. Hit that like button. Share this on X, Instagram, Facebook for us, if you would. Super chats are open. If you got anything to talk about, any questions for us, throw it in there, man. But we appreciate you guys for showing up. Like always, man. We got a couple things to talk about today. We saw on Twitter, On3 put something out about some Ohio legislators trying to pass a bill to do away with Big Noon. Ohio State specifically, pretty much, playing Big Noon games. So gets you a little bit excited. We'll dive into that here a little bit in a minute. We got 2 5-star linebackers that are going to be making official visits to Ohio State. What are the chances that we can pull both these guys, let alone just one of them? That would be absolutely amazing. Felix Ojo, Buckeye Boys have talked about him for a while. He's an official Buckeye boy. We've had him on here for an interview a couple times. He's coming on again. He just got moved to the #1 tackle in the nation. How does that affect his recruitment? Does it? Can the Buckeyes afford him? We're going to get into that. And the #1 tight end in the nation, Mark Bowen put out a top 7 today. I don't know if we've ever seen a top 7 before, but we'll dive into that as well. And I'm sure during these conversations, something else is going to get brought up. It always does. But let's dive into it, man. Funky, I want you to start with this legislator stuff coming out and this bill that wants to be passed, man. Can you fill us in on anything that you know regarding this?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, an Ohio State legislator from, I think, Youngstown, Ohio, put out a bill trying to ban Ohio State football games to be played at noon when it's a top 10 matchup. So when Ohio State's in the top 10 and the opponent's in the top 10, and if it doesn't involve Michigan. So clearly a bill we would all get behind. Pretty much keeps all Ohio State's primetime games at 3:30 or at night, which is what it should be, to be honest with you. There's no reason why we should be playing a top 10 matchup in the noon before lunch, But obviously, that's more kabuki theater, as Nevada would like to call it. So I mean, that's what it is. But it's a good stance that we should take, and it creates bigger conversations because there's going to be some sort of limit to be created on the amount of Big Noon games you can be playing a certain year. Like, they'll probably set a limit on 3 per team. So, and you'll have 1 for Ohio State versus Michigan, and whatever, 1 versus Ohio State versus Texas, 1 versus Ohio State versus Penn State. but then we'll hopefully get those other games at home, or maybe a USC or UCLA at home. So it creates a bigger conversation, but in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a joke of a bill, but it's better than the turf planting bill. So I can I'll get on board with this one.
Yeah, when you read the On3 article, it talks about how other states have done this. Louisiana with LSU, but maybe mainly because of the weather in a certain, like in September. I forget what, not September, but I forget what month it is. But they have to play night games, right? Arizona as well. But those bills were passed due to safety of players because of some weather stuff. But man, it gets me excited to see this stuff, even though it's not going to happen. It can't happen. Because of TV contracts and stuff. Fox has the noon time, so they get, that's what it is. That's their time. Texas game's going to be a big noon game. Mello, you got anything to add on to that? Because I want to dive into another discussion. We kind of got into it a little bit yesterday, but Funky's here now, so I want to dive into it again and talk about how noon games actually affect Ohio State. But you got anything to add about this?
Absolutely. We're going to keep propping up Fox big noon kickoff, and they're going to be riding Ohio State's back. Then we should get a bigger check. We should get a bigger cut of the TV deal, because Fox is the biggest portion of the TV deal, and we're carrying them. So I think with the fact that we're not going to be able to switch it to outside of new games because the contract's already been signed, they should give us more money, a bigger pot.
Is that not already a rule? I swear that already kind of is a thing. And Ohio State got the biggest slice of the pie from the TV deals last year. Or is that just because of the fact that we went to the national championship?
I think it might be because of the national championship, but it splits up evenly, like all those games amongst the Big Ten. But if they are getting a bigger pot, it's not big enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's undeniable. And it's this... might be a hot take, but I really wish Ohio State would go independent. There's so many pros you can go, controlling your own schedule, and you could pick and choose which conference tournament you want to play in when it, like in basketball, when it matters. Like Notre Dame is sitting here pretty with there's 3 auto qualifying spots they can qualify for. So the only 3 teams Notre Dame is going to be qualifying or like competing against for those 3 spots are like the fifth ranked Big Ten teams and the SEC teams, and the 3rd ranked ACC teams and Big 12 teams. And there needs to be 3 of them that be better than Notre Dame to make it into this new playoff format happening next year. And while at the same time they get to control their schedule, control their home and away games, control the time they play, while they get a huge portion of the pie because it's just their own contract. I mean, Ohio State could probably sell themselves a $200 million contract. So I'm not sure exactly why we're cutting ourselves short. And I get it's a conference thing, and I get that's never ever going to go away. But I would be pro Ohio State doing that for so many reasons. It helps us out winning games and money rise, and just through creative control.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's so many things about it that would make sense, but I think we know where football is heading to these 2, massive conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, kind of taking things over. I heard something recently that the Big 12 I think it was the Big 12 switching their format on how they get paid for their TV contracts. And from my knowledge, it goes like this. The first 40% of the revenue gets split up equally, and the remaining 60% gets dispersed depending on your TV views, depending on how many people watch your games. So I think that's more along the lines of what should happen here. But to dive into another part of this, man, Funky, we brought this up yesterday a little bit on the show, with this Texas, these Texas games, right? We get home this year, they get home next year. Well, they're going to come into our home place at noon, and we're going to go into their home place primetime night game. That's one attribute of this big noon thing that I'm not a big fan of, because I think there's a big difference, the horseshoe at noon versus at nighttime. I don't really think that's debatable. We saw the Tennessee game. We saw what happened there. But they get more of a home field advantage because they get to have their game at night because of how they have things set up, right? And then you get to the recruiting thing as well. Last year, Ohio State had 6 noon games. 4 of them were on Fox Big Noon. 4. And it's just kind of what the last 6 games of our season last year were noon games, man. And
that's just ridiculous. That should never happen. Because you're right, it does affect recruiting. These later, when we get to National Signing Day, we're not able to get kids on campus because you can't play a game, or a lot of the time you can't play a game Friday night and then make it to a noon kickoff the next morning. That's like not how it works. A lot of the times kids might have lifts in the Saturday morning after games, and they could not possibly really make a noon game unless they live in this city. Unless they live in Columbus or in Ohio, or somehow there's a midnight flight they could take right after their game, or they're out of the playoffs. They're not playing football. While these other teams could get kids on campus every weekend. We saw Neem offered. He visited Auburn 8 times, watched them win twice, but he was still visiting because he upped these free visits paid for. You got to go sideline passes, do the whole thing, and they experience the night atmosphere in Auburn Stadium. So I'm forgetting the name, but it's such a disadvantage, and we know that. Everyone knows that. There's this from the president. The only person who didn't understand that fully was what's his name? The old Big Ten guy who signed this. He went to the Bears, he was so dumb. His
name yesterday.
Yeah, he tried to kill. I mean, he's one of the main reasons why Ohio State didn't win the national championship in 2020, because those COVID rules. We had to play with 2 different rules. But he was an absolute failure in the Big Ten, and he's the reason why we're having to deal with this mess now. So I really hope there's some sort of negotiated settlement. Get Kevin Warren. That's what it was. But I'm not even sure what the next steps would be. But I'm hoping they do something, because we cannot just keep having our primetime games at noon. It's an absolute killer. It's genuinely a killer. And we're going to get every playoff game it's going to be at night, because that's when ESPN's in charge, and they know who the big brand is, and they know who they want to put at night. So I'm not sure why. Yeah, well, I get why Fox does it, because they bought our rights, so they're going to use us as much as possible. But man, is it annoying. I mean, it's frustrating. It's annoying.
So I heard that Fox has some kind of agreement with CBS, NBC, and ESPN to take that noon slot. So I think, so obviously they're going to put their highest quality product at noon, which is Ohio State. And I think that's the main issue. Now, in terms of recruiting, obviously, when you're recruiting nationally like Ohio State does, it's definitely going to hurt, because a kid in Georgia it's going to be hard for him to get up to Ohio State the next morning. You have to get here super early if you have a night game. And like Funky says, sometimes you have a lift, sometimes you have film. Sometimes the coaches are like, you have to be here, regardless if you are the number 1 recruit in the country. You need to be here. You need to be a leader for your team. So that kills us right there. And just that overall atmosphere and how loud it is at night, how crazy the student section is at night, how much harder it is for a away team to come in and play. I mean, they're getting all the advantages. And like you said, Texas game is going to be a night game next year. It's not going to be a 3:30 game. They're going to put it at night. SEC has that flex schedule for them. So it's going to be a night game.
Oh, 100%. And even when we go, I think it goes Texas, and then we play Georgia. Yep. No, Alabama. We play Alabama and then Georgia. I mean, that's going to be the same thing for that. We saw Wisconsin and Alabama was a big noon kickoff, and then Wisconsin has to go into Brian Daly Stadium or Nick Saban Fields or whatever, and it's going to be a night game. You could guarantee it. And playing at Wisconsin at night is a different animal than playing Wisconsin at noon or 11 a.m. their time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're Central Time. So 11 a.m. Wisconsin time is a lot different than the 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. 6 p.m. slot for them. Same with Ohio Stadium. I mean, it gets legit cold at night in Columbus. For these noon games, it definitely does get cold. It's definitely a colder game. But man, at night it's freezing. I've been to my fair share of Ohio State night games, and man, it gets cold. I mean, that Tennessee game was genuinely freezing. And I know the Michigan game was also really cold, but man, it's just different when it's at night versus these non-con games. It just is, and especially we get this opportunity to play Texas, and it's going to be literally at 9 a.m. It's genuinely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. I think we're stuck till 2030 as well. I think that's like the contract that has been signed because, we've heard Ross Bjork is trying to do something about this, but there's not much you can do. I mean, the little leverage that you do have is that you're Ohio State, and they would be really interested in re-signing this deal again. So, I mean, about the only leverage you would have is to go to and be like, look, you keep putting us at noon, man. When we go to re-sign and renegotiate these things, I promise you, we're not going to give you that say in the contract. We're going to put in the contract. We'll tell you what time we play our games. You sign the contract or you don't sign it, we'll move on to somebody else. They'll sign it. We're the biggest brand in Ohio State football. But, I mean, that's 5 years down the road. You know what I mean? So we're stuck for another, 5 years. I don't know the exact how many years it is we're stuck on that contract. But
2032.
2032. Very annoying, man. But, we can sit here and talk about how it affects recruiting, yet Ohio State is still managing. You only wonder what it is. On that note, real fast, too, we're not guessing on whether this affects recruits getting to see Ohio State. We know this to be a fact. We have talked to not one, not two, but several recruits and have asked them that question. And they say, yes, we were unable to get there, or, because when you're trying to travel that early, every minute matters. So if your flight gets delayed or something, we talked to one recruit in particular, his flight got delayed, he couldn't make it, had to cancel the visit, right? So those things legit happen, but Ohio State is still managing to keep pretty hot on the recruiting trail. Just recently, we saw USC linebacker, number one linebacker in the nation, according to 247, Xavier Griffin out of Gainesville, Georgia, decommitted from them, man, put out his official visit list to Ohio State, Alabama, and I cannot remember the other two. I'm sure you guys do. But then we're also in on Tyler Atkinson, man, number 2 linebacker out of Georgia. And, it's just like, wow, what do we do here, man? Is there any way that we can sign both of these guys, or where are we at? What are your guys' feelings with what's going on right now in linebacker recruiting with these 2 5-stars?
I mean, it's never been in a better spot that's straight up, that's the truth. It's never been in a better spot. With James Laurinaitis at the helm, I mean, Ohio State's it's almost been uncanny what we've been able to do at every single position, and especially linebackers in the last couple of years. I mean, last year's linebacker class was, in my opinion, the best in the country, and I think that would be a very popular opinion. You took the best from Florida and the best from Texas. That's usually a good, pretty good say when you're talking about linebacker recruitments. And then this year, we're right in the mix for the number 1 and number 2 linebackers in the country, both out of Georgia. And you could argue that we lead for Atkinson. I think a lot of people would agree with that. And you could also make a strong argument that we're right in the mix of things for Xavier Griffin, both linebackers. Both 5-star freaks, top 20 players nationally, right out of Georgia. And man, I'd be very surprised if we don't come out of here with one of them, to be honest with you. It just seems like we're going to get one of them. And you can just feel the momentum. You could just really, Tyler Atkinson loves Ohio State. And I'm not sure what it is really with a lot of these Georgia kids not wanting to go to Georgia, but it's something. It's a something. Because Georgia's never not going to outbid us for recruits. That's one thing you could guarantee. They, like us, have taken a stance of they're not going to overpay for a kid. They're not going to just go out there and buy you your checkbook, and they'll lose kids because of that. They lost a defensive lineman to Texas, a big 5-star, a top 5 player in the class last year to Texas. They lost just the number 1 tackle in the country, or at least was, to Miami yesterday. And was it yesterday? No, it was a few days ago. But they lost him to Miami. So, they don't have a gigantic checkbook, and they're not going to be able to outbid Ohio State for this one. So this is a true recruitment battle between Ohio State and Georgia, and we just don't lose many of these anymore. We just don't. I don't remember the last time we lost a big time recruitment due to non-NIL spendings, where the other team couldn't match it. Like, we couldn't match the whatever, not match the dollars. So, man, I just feel really good about it, and that's just, I'm not sure when the last time we got this many good linebacker recruits. I mean, it's definitely the best linebacker room we've ever had in the Ryan Day era for sure.
So for me, I'm just thinking about the linebacker room for the 2026 class. We already have CJ Sana. I expect Sincere Johnson to be in this class. So the real question is, how many linebackers will we take in this class? So if we're only going to take 3, then I lean that we're going to end up with Tyler Atkinson. I think we're in a better position. He has a tremendous relationship with James Laurinaitis. He loves the city of Columbus. He knows the earning power of the city of Columbus in terms of what he can make in terms of growth if he produces on the field. He believes in himself. He's already a millionaire with Adidas and acting up his own brand from Adidas. And then with Xavier Griffin, I believe we were in his top 3 when he committed to USC. Bama, I believe, was 2. So I would kind of lean that Bama might have the edge on us right now, but you never know with James Laurinaitis. I mean, James did it at a high level. He's recruiting at a high level. He's also young, so he can relate to these kids. So he's cool to these kids, right? And my only thing is, if James pulls off Xavier Griffin and Tyler Atkinson, he is goated forever. He is the GOAT. He's the king.
Yeah. You know something about both these players that gets me a little bit excited, and this is where Matt Patricia comes into play, right? Because when you hear why Ohio State is in on Xavier Griffin, it brings up this point that, we're asked, that Mello just brought up. Well, we're pretty crowded in the linebacker room.
Mm-hmm.
Then it takes us back to Justin Hill last year out of Ohio, defensive end. Why did he sign with Alabama? Because we could not show him proof of concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know I just went everywhere with this, but Xavier Griffin is picking Ohio State as an official visit because we've shown him where we can utilize his skill sets in the scheme. More importantly, Matt Patricia, I believe, has came in, taken the time with these recruits to sit down and kind of talk football with them. Every recruit you talk to, when asked about Matt Patricia, one just got interviewed the other day and said, yeah, Matt Patricia asked me one question and it turned into a 2-hour conversation, right? So I'm getting a little bit excited here because you see players like Xavier Griffin and Tyler Atkinson, players that, you could see fitting in more of the Alabama, Georgia type of schemes, but then Matt Patricia can come in and show him the film that he's used from the NFL and show him what he plans on doing this year. Not only that, we're going to be able to see it on the field. We got players like Arvell Reese now, Sonny Styles, because Peyton Pierce can come in and fill that void there. And you say we're lacking on the defensive line a little bit. Well, we got help with the linebacker position. So I think this can turn into a pretty beautiful thing, right? And it's going to get us get our foot in the door a little bit. Some of these recruits that we've missed in the past because of scheme, the players like Justin Hill, players we could use, you know what I mean? Coming off the edge or in an outside linebacker type of position. So, this is more, to me, I haven't verified this or anything, but a lot of this I think can point towards Matt Patricia and how he can sit down and show some of these recruits, hey man, look, this is how I can use you in my scheme. And these recruits know who he is. He's got a lot of backstory, a lot of film, a lot of games where he can show them proof of concept of, hey, look, this is what I did, versus a Jim Knowles who, hey man, or whatever the deal was there, there's really no proof of concept there. This is Ohio State 4-down lineman. So we'll see what happens, right, with their defensive scheme this year. But I think, showing players that we're able to utilize them and utilize their skill sets in a scheme, hence Matt Patricia, I think can help us on the recruiting field as well. I mean, Xavier Griffin said it, that he sat down, had a conversation, and he got shown how he can be used. He said he first didn't pick them because he was worried about him not being used in the Ohio State scheme. His skill sets wouldn't fit with the scheme, but now that's changed. Now he's taken an official visit, and now he said he's excited. Why is that? The only thing I can think of is Matt Patricia has shown him how he can utilize him in the scheme. Do you guys got any thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I mean, our lack of recruitment coming from our prior defensive coordinator has to be talked about, and the fact that we're going to be using the linebackers more for this new with Matt Patricia is definitely something that these kids look at, and they're actually able to sit down with a defensive coordinator and actually talk about how they're actually going to be used with real game film that he could pull up from his days in New England or his days in Detroit, and he could show you what you're going to be at Ohio State, which is just not something we've been able to do at that position, and it's been why we've been recruiting so poorly for I mean, we recruited really poorly at the linebacker position for really, I mean, obviously not last year, and I'm sure the year before that, but we've been notoriously pretty underwhelming on that side of the ball.
Yes.
So, but it's a change, and players are for sure. I mean, 100% notice. He brought it up directly, if I remember correctly.
He did.
So it's the only. I mean, it's really important, and It's a breath of fresh air having these new faces in the building, and they're not slacking off in the recruiting trail. They're really going after it.
Yeah, I mean, I read that Ohio State is recruiting Xavier Griffin as linebacker / D end. So again, have been able to confirm that. That's what I read in an article, I believe over on 247 Bucknuts. They're pretty good with that stuff. Bill Kurlick is pretty good with some of that stuff sometimes. So I believe that's what I read over there. So it excites me, man. I was pretty upset missing on a player like Justin Hill, but then you can't blame him, with the skill set that he has. Mello, you got anything to add to that?
No, that makes sense. Using him as a linebacker DN hybrid, because we watched this film yesterday. That kid is pretty big and pretty violent coming off the edge. Someone was asking, would Tyler Atkinson play DN? Tyler Atkinson could play anywhere. But his main thing is linebacker. He's probably the best linebacker to come out in at least a decade at a high school rank. So he's gonna be a linebacker.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing, man, to mention, not Ohio State related, but anybody else hearing out there that Xavier Griffin decommitted from USC because they're not letting their kids take other visits? They're trying a different approach this year because they saw what happened last year with their class. You guys hearing that? Is that a rumor? What's going on there? Are they allowing kids to take visits, or are they trying to shut down visits to other schools for their commits right now?
USC is trying to shut down visits. They're taking a stance. If you're committing here, you're committing here, which is, I mean, I gotta respect it, because we talked, or at least I've talked a lot with a lot of people from being from this area. Talked to a lot of people who are very, very high on Colin Cowherd, very important people, very big donors to USC, very, very big donors to USC. I'm giggling at that because if you guys don't know, my whole life I grew up going to USC games. And when I mean USC games, Devin and Mello, I don't mean, I was sitting like in the stands or sitting in the things. I mean, I was on the field, like on this infield suite. So the amount of rich billionaires in these suites around you are absurd, and I became pretty good friends with a few of them, and I always talk to them about USC football because they love talking about it, and they are very adamant that something needs to change, and they weren't sure what the heck it was, but this is the stance they're taking. If you're committed here, you're not taking visits. You're committed to the USC Trojans. There's no need. This is not a open marriage or whatever. Like you're going to be going here if you commit here, but you don't need to verbally commit here. There's nothing like forcing you to verbally commit here, but if you do, they want to take the stance that you're not going to visit elsewhere. And they kind of use Xavier as an example. He went up to them and was, I think I'm going to take some visits elsewhere. And they said, well, we don't want you committed here then. And it was pretty heated, and it did not go well. And that's why I don't think he's even gonna reconsider them. I think they're pretty much completely out of the picture, but it's just something that they did, and they need to make a stance, and it's a new era, the Lincoln Riley era. They're on their last stretch. I mean, he has about 2-3 years left max, and he's done. His contract's actually gigantic, and they gave him a nice, like, $10 million home in Palos Verdes, California. I had to drive past it I worked up in the hills, and I had to drive past it almost every single day. And when I drove home at like 8, 9 p.m. my shift, you would see limos outside his house. You would see like a bunch of security guards, and if every now and then you would catch 5 stars walking in and out, and it was very interesting. But just to show you how much power like Lincoln has on USC, because they gave him everything. They gave him the whole fortune, and he's been nothing but a failure there. So they're no, seriously, that's what it is. And so it's been an interesting ride, and it's very interesting, and and I like it because they need to do something, but it could also slap them right back in the face, because now they're like, these kids, you know how it is. The kids kind of run the recruiting business. So but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think they're playing a game that has a slippery slope for them. Now, if they were Ohio State or they were Bama or UGA, I think you have more push to do that, more leeway, because you're already established. Their main problem isn't their offense, it's their defense. And you just lost the number 2, in my opinion, or number 1, depending who you want to look at, linebacker in the country, because you wouldn't let them go on visits. Imagine that's like if Ohio State told JJ, nope, you got to shut it down. Otherwise, get out. We don't want you. Like, come on, man. We didn't even do that. But hey, to each their own. I guess that's the stance and the hill they want to die on. But I believe like their defense is what needs to get fixed. And Lincoln's here for a while. I mean, he has a $50 million buyout. If anybody could pay it, though, USC can. But I don't know. I think they're playing a dangerous game.
Yeah, dude, it's such a weird time, because a verbal commitment isn't what it used to be. It's not really committing anymore for some kids.
Yeah.
For some kids it is. For instance, Blaine Bradford. Just to let everybody, when Blaine Bradford committed, he told everybody it's shut down. He said he's locked in with Ohio State. That's what he said. And there was another recent interview where he said it, and everybody's acting like this is news. No, man, when the dude committed, he shut it down, and it was shut down then. Like it's been shut down. And I find it interesting, you know what I mean, that some recruits do that. You know, we had Braylon Womack's dad on the show one day, and he brought this up. He said, okay, so this is how they're approaching their son's recruitment. If you ask a girl to marry you and she says yes, are you then going to go on dates just to verify that she's the right girl? Right. And that makes sense. That's how I've always viewed, if you say you're going to commit to a school, that's how I've always viewed it. But so check this out. If you guys were head coaches, right, and you guys had to make that decision, what would your vote be? Would you vote to tell players, hey, don't commit until you're ready to shut it down because we don't allow you to commit and visit other schools? Or are you going to say, hey, we don't mind if you commit and visit other schools? What's your stance if you're running the program?
It really depends on the situation for me. Like, what school am I at? Are we winning? Because I feel like if you're winning, you have a little more power to do that without negative repercussions. But if you're a school has been losing and is used to losing, how can you tell elite recruits shut it down? I know you're trying to change the culture, but that's just taking a longer period of time. Unless Lincoln Riley has some reassurances that if things don't go as well this season for him, that he's safe, I would have told that kid, go ahead, visit. You're not going to find anything out there better. But at the same time, what you're saying makes sense. If you're going to commit to us, go ahead, take all your visits, do your due diligence. And if you want to commit to us, and let's go ahead and go and do this thing together. But some schools just aren't in that position.
Yeah, and with Lincoln Riley, I mean, his protection's his contract, and they can't get rid of him because it's contract. If they could, if his contract was way less, he would be out the door by now, to be honest with you. So that's what he can go to recruits, and he definitely has a year. He probably has 2-3 years left minimum, just because of the sheer size of his contract, and his kids are in school in LA, and yeah. So to get on to what I would do, I mean, it depends who you are. If you're Ohio State, you don't need to be insecure about that. You got a culture, and we don't need to be watching where these kids visit. One, because I'm genuinely, this is the first class in a while that I'm not worried at all about where these kids visit. even though I think a lot of them aren't going to visit many places. But even if the kids that do, I'm sure that some kids are going to commit and they're going to visit other places. I'm not worried one bit because it's almost like improper to commit to Ohio State and then flip. Now, in this, in obviously this post-Natty era is a lot different than what it was pre-Natty. But this post-Natty era, if you commit to Ohio State and you're flipping, like that kind of shows your character more than it does Ohio State, the brand. It's just because clearly you see all these kids shutting it down immediately when they commit to Ohio State. We have a shutdown rate that's higher than I can ever imagine. So it seems like kind of like you see all the star players in the class doing it, all the Chris Henry Juniors and the Caden Dixon Wyatts and the whatever, they're doing it. So I should do it as well. But if I'm a program like USC, I mean, I like what they're doing. And I think if I started my own program and I need this to like create a culture, that's what I would do. Because or maybe I'm wrong, maybe I would be fired in 10 seconds. But give me 23 star kids who want to be here compared to maybe 15 3-star kids and the 4 or 5 4-star kids I end up pulling because they end up actually sticking with their commitment. I don't know, but you need to lose another 4 or 5 4-star kids to the whatever flipping every year. I'd rather just give me kids that want to be here and that actually want to commit here rather than kids that are going to be flip-floppy, because those flip-floppy kids are the first kids that are going to be out in the portal, and the first kids going to be asking for a pay raise, and the first kids that are going to be complaining about their playing time, So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, man, right there. Is like the kids that are going to do that and flip anyway, if they run into a little bit of trouble during the season or with their developmental thing, or they have a disagreement, you kind of see how that kind of gives you a little glance into the future. So I think Ohio State, the way Ohio State and Ryan Day has set this team up is beautiful, because last year before the Natty, Ohio State fans, they knew the culture that was there, right? And what the Natty did was it put that culture on national blast, right? And it tested it, okay? And it passed the test with flying colors. So it gave the culture that Ohio State had, it gave it national media and it gave it power. It showed the country what a culture like that can do. It showed recruits what a brotherhood in a culture like that can do. So what you're seeing happen with these recruits that commit to Ohio State is Ohio State's not pressuring them to shut down the recruitment. They're shutting it down on their own because they just witnessed the power of it. They just saw what can happen, as a result of having that type of culture. I mean, it's been around for a while here at Ohio State with the brotherhood. When you get, even when you go in the NFL, when we had, what's her name that we had on here for the interview? She spoke about even the culture, the
Monica
brotherhood.
Daniels.
Yeah, Monica Daniels, even the brotherhood in the NFL with these Buckeye players and the families. I mean, if there's an NFL game and there's Buckeye families involved, they're getting together and eating together before the game, the day before. So it's really cool. It's a really cool thing to see what Ryan Day is doing with his culture and the power that it has, like to influence the nation, the recruits, these young lives. Ryan Day's always said that's the number one thing that's most important to him. And you're watching it before your own eyes. You're watching a head coach, right, say what is most important to him, and he's actually doing it. And now you're seeing the fruits of it. You're seeing the results of what a culture like this can do for a team, because Chris Henry Jr., article after article of flipping and flipping and flipping, and they are still putting stuff out now that, oh, yeah, he's still saying all the right things, but we'll see. Then shut up, Con3. Seriously, let it go. But they're doing it on their own because they know how powerful that is, right? And if you live the rest of your life like that, man, you're going to have a pretty blessed life. So,
but I think you hit it. You said something that's profound that I don't want to skate over. The kids are doing it on their own. So that's the difference than, say, a Lincoln Riley saying, or their program, whoever's saying it, shut down your recruitment if you commit to us. That's it, especially when you're a down program. Look at what happened to Clemson. They were down and out for a long time because Dabble was doing the same thing. Dabble wasn't using the transfer portal. And now they're finally back up. But Dabble had that leeway because he went to Natty and he won a Natty. Lincoln Riley hasn't done anything. I don't even think he won a playoff game yet. So for him to do that, he needs to win. That's all I'm saying. Now, what you guys are saying, I 100% agree. But in his situation, for me, you need to win. So I would just trust the process and maybe up your NIL right now.
Yeah. Moving on, man. 247 updated their ratings on some of these recruits, and it gave us here at the Buckeye Boys a little confidence in our evaluations when we watch film and stuff. We've always said we're not experts at it. It's something we're trying to get better at. When I watch an offensive lineman's film, I'll call Kirk to talk about it. An All-American offensive lineman coach, the whole nine. He knows what's up with the game. So we watched a specific recruit's film a while ago, and we made our little list of who's the top tackle in the country, and we chose Felix Ojo. And we reached out to him and said, hey, man, you want to do an interview here on the Buckeye Boys? He said, yeah, man, we've been in constant contact since then. He's coming back on. Well, he just got moved up to the number 1 offensive tackle in the country. Now, the dude is taking a ginormous amount of official visits, okay? I can't even remember them all. But if you ask me, it's an Ohio State-Texas race right now. You see Jackson Cantwell, the previous number 1 tackle, reportedly just got paid essentially $2 million a year to go somewhere. Unproven tackle out of high school, $2 million to go to Miami. And you kind of ask yourself now, Felix Ojo, number 1 tackle in the country. Can Ohio State afford him? Is this on top of Felix Ojo's list? Is he going to be swayed by money like this? Like, these are the conversations that are getting brought up now. Crystal Ball just got put in for Felix Ojo to Texas. I mean, that's laughable at this point, from the source, because he hasn't made a decision yet or anything like that. But my question to you guys is, like, do we stand an actual shot with Felix Ojo? What's your thoughts on him being the number 1 tackle in the country? Just run down our chances with Felix Ojo right now.
I really like where we sit with Felix Ojo, and I really like it in the stance of football. I really do think that the Buckeyes are doing the best job in his recruitment, and I really think that we're going all in on him, and we've been putting our chips on him. He doesn't need to be the number 1 ranked tackle in the country for us to think that. We've been doing that, but before he even was a 5-star, when he was a 4-star guy, we've been going. Ryan Day's visited school multiple times. He's in constant contact with, Coach Locke, with the whole crew, and this is a full. All hands on board. Everyone's involved with this guy's recruitment, and it's deserving. He's a big Texas offensive tackle. This is going to be a Donnie Jackson recruitment, and we've been in the mix of these 5-star tackles. We know how important it is, and we've proven that we could not just get a 5-star on the roster, but we could put 2 of them. We can put 2 5-star tackles, or not 5-star tackles. We can put 2 tackles in the first round in the same draft class, while having the Remington winner as our center, with Donnie Jackson and, oh my God, I was forgetting his name, but for the Chiefs tackle and Donnie Jackson, Josh Simmons. That's 2 first-round tackles that we produced into the NFL, and you can't ignore that. Felix knows that. Not even Texas did this. They had 2 great tackles, but I think only 1 first-round pick from the tackles, I believe. Right, Devin? No, maybe. I'm pretty sure they only
they did not have 2.
Yeah, the second one was drafted, but not in the first round. And so, you can't. Ohio State's developed at the highest level at that position. I know we're going to be able to give them a reasonable NIL package, probably around $1 to $1.2 million a year for a freshman. So probably around $5 million for 4 years, if I had to put a random guess on it, which is a lot, but my one question is, will that be enough? We saw Jackson Cantwell got paid $10 million to go to Miami. And is Felix Ojo really $4 million less than him? No, absolutely not. So will someone pay up $2 million? Probably, maybe. And that's why I can see us losing this recruitment. But if that doesn't happen, then there's absolutely no chance that we lose this kid, because he wants to be a Buckeye, and he's a kid that I'd want to be a Buckeye. But sometimes you can't blame a kid, though, for passing up on what could be generational wealth, And I'm not even sure if that's the sense. I'm not speaking for the kid. I'm not sure what offers Ohio State has for him or from what other schools have offered him. But this is just kind of reading the tea leaves. But I still do like where Ohio State sits, because for all I know, Ohio State can give him the big $8 million package if they think he can start year one. But it's just unknowable right now, and I think he's going to take his time and I think he's going to take his recruitment to the very, very, very end.
Yeah, so Texas had a first round and a sixth round tackle. They also had a sixth round guard as well. But Mello, anything to add to that?
In terms of just from us talking to him, I mean, this kid is special. He's smart. It's going to be a tough pull regardless of the NIL evaluation that people are putting out there for him, because he is from Texas. He is at home and he does get NIL. He doesn't have to pay state taxes. People are forgetting about that. That's a pretty big deal, especially when you're talking about these kinds of numbers. But I do feel like he loves Ohio State. I do feel like he's wanted by Ohio State. The entire offensive staff, including Coach Day, is recruiting him. So can we get him? That's yet to be seen, but we'll definitely ask him next time he's on the Buckeye Boys, because we asked him last time, where does Ohio State sit in your recruitment? And you don't have to answer that if you don't mind. And he answered it. He said number 2. And I said, why? Who's 1? And he said Texas, of course. So there you have it. But I do believe we made up a lot of ground. They're making him a top priority. So we'll see. We're going to ask him when he comes back on. So make sure you're tuning in.
Yeah, for sure. If you had to commit right, if Felix had to commit right now, just based off the conversations, I mean, I would say Ohio State is out recruiting everybody with effort. If we lose this recruitment, it will not be because of lack of effort from anybody on the coaching staff, right? So this is the David Sanders of this class. We are going to be willing to try to negotiate nil and whatever else. We will go above and beyond. We'll go to that level, man. I've said 100 times. From talking to Felix, we know how much the coaches reach out to him and how many coaches reach out to him. He's on Day's list of recruits to get, but it's going to be an extremely tough pool, just to keep it real. I mean, I feel like we got a better shot at Tyler Atkinson, if that kind of tells you anything. That's just my opinion here. Because it's just going to be a tough pool, man. He's a very young kid. He's like a year younger than Jackson Cantwell and any of the other tackles in this class. But still, either way, I've said it 100 times. If we miss on him, if we miss on Darius Gray, Tyler Bowen is doing an excellent job. And speaking of that, we have a left tackle in the class already, right? And that's another thing that could possibly affect this, because Sam Greer, I'm going to tell you something. I just got an update about Sam Greer, and he is becoming a man, to put it bluntly to people. The weight room is really doing a lot of good things to him. Over 300 pounds now, looking way more muscular, getting very excited, and he's looking like he got a huge bump in the ratings as well. But they just had a showcase at their high school, and the people that watched him at the showcase said he was the star of the showcase. And he is a changed player from last year. So a lot of people kind of were having a race between Adam Guthrie and Sam Greer to be the top tackle out of Ohio. Well, Sam Greer put that to bed today. I mean, Sam Greer is the number 1 tackle in the state of Ohio, got bumped in the ratings as well. And he's starting to take shape, starting to learn his, get used to his body a little bit. Basketball player, feet looking real good. So he's developing and looking more and more like a left tackle the more we see him. And you love to see that out of recruits. So, Funky or Mello, anything to add about Sam Greer before we move on to Mark?
He's just a prime example why I don't really don't really care about recruits in general, like who commits, who doesn't. Like, it doesn't really affect how my outlook on Ohio State football, just because we've proven over and over again that it doesn't really matter. And the second, especially offensive line, because we see every year we get these kids from Ohio that outperform 5-star kids from across the country. So, and we have 2 tackles ready in this class, and they're both from Ohio, Maxwell Riley and Sam Greer. So I'm already not worried about the offensive line. So, I mean, he just gives me more reason not to worry. And you have no doubt he's going to be a stud. I mean, him and Maxwell are going to be absolute beasts at Ohio State, and they're probably going to start as redshirt sophomores, redshirt freshmen. So, it's going to be it's an exciting time to be an Ohio State fan, and no high school kid's going to stop that.
Listen, I love Sam Grier. I've said for the longest, I know how great Cantwell is and Ojo, but I wanted Sam Grier. To me, he was my number one O lineman in the country. I love what he brings. I love his tenacity on the basketball court. I love everything about him. He is an absolute dog, and I'm happy where we're at right now. Do I want Ojo? Absolutely. We get Ojo, that's like a grand slam for Tyler Bowen in his first year. It's going to be a hard pull, like Dev said, but if anybody can do it, Ohio State can do it.
Yeah, for sure. Man, shout out Ray in the chat, man. I appreciate you, Ray. He's kind of talking about the struggles he's had in life and stuff. I've shared my testimony on here several times. I struggled with heroin addiction for 10 years. Didn't want to be anymore. I wanted to die, essentially. Jesus radically saved my life, and own a company now, sitting here on YouTube talking about Ohio State football, which I love, with two great people. I mean, life is amazing. So if I can do it, I promise you can do it. I was as hopeless as one could possibly be. Homeless, the whole 9 yards. It doesn't. 150 pounds soaking wet, staph infection in the heart. I mean, you name it, I was there, man. So if you're going through something tough right now, man, I promise you, lean into some people around you, lean into Jesus if you're a believer. If you're not, man, try something new in your life. Try it. I was not a believer when I first wanted it. I just wasn't, man. I laughed when people would read the Bible to me. I would laugh like, man, Jesus didn't heal the blind. That's hilarious to hear that. I'm telling you right now, my heart has changed. I know for a fact that he did, and he still does. But give it a shot, man. There is hope for everybody. That's the number one thing. The number one message that God has put on my heart. I worked in ministry for, 5 years. I have seen situations that people deem hopeless, and they were not hopeless. So keep up the good fight, Ray. Shoot me an email, man. I'll give you my number and help you any way that I can. But yeah, Funky said it, man. This is the Block O, bigger than any recruit, bigger than any coach, bigger than any fan. Shoot, it's bigger than any football season. You know what I mean? This is the Ohio State University. So we're going to be just fine. We lose 14 players to the draft. Everybody's freaking out like this is something new. What? So we have elite talent go to the NFL all the time, man. We lose coaches all the time. This is nothing new. This is what we do. It's what a lot of other college programs do as well. So we're going to be all right. Mark Bowman. I'm not even going to talk about him. I know that Funky's pretty loaded up. It's got all the goods on Mark Bowman. So Funky, let us have it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it multiple times on multiple different shows. Mark Bowman is the best tight end prospect I've ever witnessed. I'm out of modern day California. I've been seeing him play, or not out. He doesn't live there. That's not a city. Where he goes to high school in modern day. He's out of Southern California. The kid's an absolute freak. He's a stud. He's one of the best prospects I've ever seen out of California. He was up there. He's up there with any non-quarterback prospect. And he's, in my head, he's number. There's only a few I could ever even think about. And those other guys I'm thinking about ended up being absolute freaks, Hall of Famers, or future Hall of Famers, I'd say. So, and he's up there with all of them. He's a tight end. He's the most dominant tight end I've ever seen. And he's going to have an absolute insane season this year with Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt as his wide receivers. He's just a scary man. That's all I got to say. And I really do think he ends up at Texas or Georgia. I would have bet $1 million on Georgia just by knowing his family, because they're decently big Georgia fans, and they've always kind of been, and they have respect for Kirby, and they're obviously long history of tight end recruits. But as of recent, it seems like Texas picked up steam, but he released his top 7, and Ohio State's still in there. And if I learned one thing in this recruitment, never count any team out, because with Max Clare has a gigantic season. Max Clare, whatever, makes Clare for Heisman, if that really starts picking up steam and he becomes a first-team All-American, first-round pick, and then his 2 teammates are in his ear, then I could really see Ohio State at least having a chip in his chair in his recruitment. It's just really going to depend on how we use the tight end, because we've just not used the tight end at all, and so we have no tape to show, like we talked about earlier. But I just hope I would give up so much. I know I just said I won't react about any high school kid, but I'm telling you, this kid's an absolute freak, and he's gonna change some program offensively. If it's Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, it's gonna be special to watch because he is genuinely that good. And yeah, I mean he's a freak, and I've been saying that for a while, and I never even thought he was ever really going to end up on Ohio State. I wasn't even sure if he was even considering us really, but the CS in the top 7 is giving me some unrealistic hopes, Devin and Mello. So yeah, I know I kind of just glazed him for a bit there, but I live an hour away from him. I watch him play almost every single time I could, and he never fails to amaze me.
He's a reclass, right?
Yep, reclass from 2027 to 2026 too. So he's a year younger, same class as Brady Edmonds. Really good friends with Brady Edmonds, but goes to school in Mater Dei. So too many things are adding up besides the fact that he plays tight end and Ohio State just literally hasn't done that, produced that position well at all. So that's just a fact.
Don't apologize, because how you feel about Mark Bowman is how I feel about Tyler Atkinson. But I have a few questions for you, Funky. You also had another great tight end from SoCal a few years back that went to Georgia named Brock Bowers. So can you compare them? Are they similar players? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, very similar. Mark Bowman's better, though.
Oh, really?
For sure. Well, I'm not for sure better, and he's a year younger than he was, but he's bigger already. He's more athletic. I would say that I think Brock was probably a slightly better run blocker and slightly better route runner, but hands wise, athleticism wise, I mean, Mark Bowman would make him look like a child at that age, because I mean he's a young kid. He's going to be a young football player, and he wants to be 3 now, so he's really only going to be a sophomore year of age playing big time SEC football and being in the NFL. So, but he's better than Brock Bowers. But his idol is Brock Bowers. Like if you ask him his favorite player, he's gonna tell you Brock Bowers. I mean, they have a lot of similarities. From similar areas, and obviously, I mean, it's just you can't help but compare them, and they are very similar players. But Mark Bowman, it's hard for me to even put a player comp to him because he's a freak. Like I'd have to say like Jimmy Graham or something. He's a little smaller than Jimmy is, but
you got Mark Bowman. Mello picked Tyler Atkinson. I'm probably going to surprise everybody, dude. I'm picking Jameer Perez as the one that I love. Jameer Perez. Watched his film, and I think he's a difference maker. He is a way lower rated big dude out of Ohio, but the second I watched this film, me and Mello did a video on him, and I was like, y'all better pay attention to this guy. So we got to wrap up here, but real fast, man. Funky mentioned something about our chances with Mark Bowman kind of can depend on Max Clare, and I wanted to hit on real fast something that doesn't really get talked about, and that's the impact that other recruits and other players can have on other recruits. And I think one player on our team that is making huge impacts, you could probably list 2, but that's Caleb Downs, man. You kind of see, look at our safety class, man, the safeties we're in on. Every one of those guys mentions a conversation with Caleb Downs changing something in their recruiting. So you can always hold out hope, man, that because players can't have that effect. I mean, what Ohio State did, going and getting Caleb Downs, making sure they get him, was just such a boss chess move in every single way. I think it changed the dynamic of their recruiting. It changed their on-field stuff. It changed a lot for the program. I know J.J. Smith has a lot of impact on the program, but we've always had those type of wide receivers. We haven't had a Caleb Downs in a long time, and it just nationally, I just think it changed so many things, not just on-field stuff, for Ohio State. You guys got anything to add to that before we wrap this thing up here?
Then that won us the national championship right there. We don't win without Caleb, and I mean Caleb's. I mean he'll never really put up like the interception stats, which again that's kind of dumb to even say because he just. I mean people who judge player safety off how many interceptions they have aren't very smart people in my opinion. But the impact he has in the run game, and he's a literally human missile out there at linebacker or safety, or he can guard up, he can guard your best tight end while playing the run. It's absurd. And he really had the play of the year for us versus Texas. And I know Jack gets the glory, but I mean, Caleb really is the one who set up that 2nd and 7. And he had so many other plays, and we don't win that Penn State game without Caleb. We probably don't win a few of those games without Caleb. We might lose 3 games or 4 games without Caleb. So it's. We definitely don't win a natty, I'll tell you that. So it's and from that stance, and then obviously the recruitment. I mean, there's no better guy to talk to than Caleb Downs because he's like the Jeremiah Smith of the defense. It's you come here and you're gonna be playing with kids like this for 4 years, and he's gonna make ton. I mean, he's making $3 million right now from Ohio State, and he's gonna make 100, 200, 300 million from the NFL. So man, he's a special kid, and he has special goals, and he's good for the culture, and he's good for winning. So that's what I like, especially. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Funky really crushed that take, honestly. Caleb, we don't win a national championship without Caleb Downs. And if anyone's doubting that, you're out of your mind. The way that they deployed Caleb Downs after that October 12th loss to the Quacks out west just changed the entire defense for the rest of the season. And they jumped up to the number 1 defense. He could run stop. He could guard your tight end. He could guard your wide receiver. He could come up and hit you. He could pick the ball off. I heard people talking about Caleb Downs can't cover. He could cover and he could catch. He could do everything. So he changed everything, the way he carries himself, the confidence he has, the professionalism he has, the faith that he has. It's really paying off. You see Braylon Womack mentions Caleb Downs. Blaine Bradford mentions Caleb Downs. Simeon Caldwell mentioned Caleb Downs. He's just an absolute leader. And it's not even so much you could play next to him. You could play next to him, or we see you playing. We're going to deploy you the same way that we're using Caleb Downs. So that's a big sell, especially with a kid that's projected to be at least at the lowest, a top 10 pick in next year's draft class. He is absolutely the best defensive player in the country, regardless of position. So having Caleb Downs and getting him to flip, well, not so much flip, but to get him out of the portal from Bama was so crucial. I don't think people even have any idea how big that was.
Yeah. Ohio State's got a very bright future, man, with Ryan Day and what he's creating there, man. If you like this content, we are the Buckeye Boys. We stream here on Buckeye Scoop. Go check our channel out. It's the Buckeye Boys with a Z. Go like and subscribe to our videos. We stream on there. We stream on here. So it's awesome. If you like the information that you're hearing here, 99% of it comes from the Buckeye Scoop message board. If you're not subscribed to that message board, I highly encourage you to get over there, man. You want some recruiting intel? Funky here is always posting on there. He's got the best recruiting intel that there is. Most of my stuff comes from Funky. Some of it comes from interviews we do as well, but he's a boss at it. They got insiders in the Woody talking about updates with the team. So get over there, man. They're about to go right now. We might be bleeding into their time a little bit, but Kirk and Nevada are about to go live. So stay tuned and check them guys out. Hit like if you haven't already done that. Subscribe if you already haven't done that. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH.
My bad. I forgot I was on mute.